Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Embodied Living, the space where we get real, we get raw, and we get radiant as fuck. Today, we're going deep. We're talking about that exhausting, gut-wrenching feeling of always needing to perform, to prove, to hustle for worthiness, and still believing I am never enough for anyone. So if you're nodding your head, or if you're feeling that pain in your chest, you're not alone. If you get headaches on a regular basis like I do, you're not alone. I want you to really hear this. You are not alone. Too many of us women feel the need to prove ourselves. And in that, we cause massive burnout for ourselves, exhaustion, and then we feel guilty because we're exhausted. So, who's with me on that one? So, let's just talk about what happens when we live in this place of constant proving. We become performers, we become chameleons, we shape shift into whatever we think people want us to be. The good girl, the high achiever, the no problem, I've got it woman. And while a voice inside whispers, if I don't keep this up, if I don't keep everyone happy, they'll leave, I'll be rejected, or I'll finally be exposed as not enough. They'll finally see who I really am. This is the burnout cycle from performing and proving. It's soul depleting, and it's one of the biggest reasons so many of us feel disconnected from who we really are. So here's the thing. We don't even talk about this like we need to. Fear is not always a villain. Fear can be our protector. Fear is our nervous system doing its job. If you grew up in environments where love felt conditional or where speaking your truth led to conflict or rejection, your body learned early on: shrink, stay silent, comply, keep people happy. That's how we stay safe. But why do some of us seem to live in this proving and performing loop more than others? Because many of us, childhood was the training ground for it. So let me share my own story here a bit. I always felt like I had to prove my worth. Always. I grew up in a family of very smart people. In fact, my uncle was considered a genius, and my mom was a lawyer. And my other uncle went to UC Berkeley and did very, very well, and also is a musician. And I just never felt as bright as them. And on top of that, I had a learning issue that wasn't even exposed until my senior year of college. So growing up, I'd get told I heard things wrong all the time. Even when I knew I'd heard it right, people would insist I misunderstood, sometimes just to avoid admitting that they'd actually said. I started to question my reality. I didn't do well in school until high school. College was another story. I couldn't seem to get it together or pull the grades. I was exhausted all the time. My depression felt heavier than ever. I barely graduated. I went from being one of the top kids in my high school to barely graduating college. But after college, it was over. I started to do better. And then I got married, and my daughter came a little sooner than expected. And while I personally loved pregnancy, I really did. I didn't have the icky symptoms. My childbirths were smooth. Things changed once I became a parent. Suddenly, there were judgments coming at me from so many directions, but the strongest ones came from my then husband. Because I wasn't making money outside the home, it was assumed I should handle everything else. So I did. He didn't help, or if he did, there was so much complaining that I just stopped asking. I was tired all the time. And it wasn't from lack of sleep, which I also did have because, I had children. I managed everything: the kids' schedules, volunteering at their schools, their sports. I even became his right hand person when he started his business. And it still was never enough. Every time he was stressed about money, he projected his thoughts about himself onto me. He would tell me I had no value if I wasn't bringing in a paycheck. So I kept trying to prove my worth. I'd start home businesses, I'd enroll in classes, I'd chase new skills, but nothing ever seemed to work out. I was exhausted. I was burnt out from proving my worth and never feeling like enough. It killed my confidence. It killed my soul. It wasn't until I got divorced 20 years later and discovered my ex was a covert narcissist. That's when I finally began to heal. Because knowledge is power. And with knowledge I'd never had before, I finally understood my worth was never measured by his insecurities or his inability to see my value. I was always enough. And the moment I realized that, when I truly, truly embodied that, my confidence came roaring back to me. That was when I met my amazing man who loves me for me, the weird, the playful, the beautiful soul that I am. That's when I started attracting friends who are my ride or die girls. I began to see me again and to hold my boundaries, choose what I love, and stop believing I had to make everyone else happy in order to be happy myself. Because my happiness is based on what I need and what I want. And sometimes that's taking care of my people. Sometimes it's not. And that's okay. And that is why I'm so passionate about helping women to stop performing and proving and to start living in their body as their whole selves. So let's bring it back into the body because, babe, that's where the real truth lives. So here's what we need to remember. Fear isn't just a thought in your mind, it's felt. It's stored in our muscles, in our breath, in our nervous system, in our cells. And for me, fear used to live in a constant tightness. I just felt so afraid to just open up and be me. My jaw would ache because I was clenching my teeth so hard without even realizing it. My shoulders, often probably up by my ears and my stomach. God, I felt sick a lot. And here's the thing, your body doesn't just hold stress. It's holding the story of your life. It's holding the times you were told you were too sensitive. How many have had that? I know I did. The times your words were twisted around and thrown back at you. The shame of feeling like you just couldn't keep up. The exhaustion from proving your worth over and over. So if you've been telling yourself, why can't I just relax? This is why. Your body has learned to stay on guard. You've learned that if you rest or you relax, you are procrastinating something you obviously need to be doing. It is a defense mechanism. If you can't just sit and relax without thinking of all the other things you should be doing, this is what our body does. This is what our brain does to us. Think of it as you're always scanning the room, always reading people's faces, listening for tone or voice, preparing for what might go wrong. Because at some point in your life, it wasn't safe to just be. Or perhaps when you were just relaxing and just being, you got in trouble for it. And it makes total sense that the body would hold on to that. It does. Fear shows up as physical symptoms like a racing heart when someone raises their voice, shallow breathing when you're about to set a boundary, sweaty palms before sharing your opinion, headaches or migraines when you feel overwhelmed, fatigue so deep it feels like you're walking through cement. And the wild part? Sometimes we get so used to feeling tense that we don't even notice it anymore. We normalize living in survival mode. And some of us, if we don't feel it, we're worried, right? If your body just relaxes, if you're not feeling some type of issue going on, some stress, you wonder what's wrong with you because your body has normalized living in survival mode. So, as you're listening to this, I want you to check in right now. Where is fear living in your body? I want you to scan the top of your head. Does it feel tight or congested? Perhaps your jaw is feeling tight. Open your jaw up all the way and just feel it soften. Are you able to do that? How's your breath right now? Is it deep and full? Are you able to take deep breaths or are you shallow? I want you to notice your shoulders. Can you drop them down? As you can see, mine weren't very high. But are they sitting up here or are they here? Are they back? How's your stomach? Does it feel soft or does it feel clenched, like you're a little sick to your stomach? I just want you to start noticing. And that's really the first step towards shifting it, is simply our awareness of where we are holding that fear, that survival mode in our bodies, especially when we cross one of our boundaries, especially when we say yes to something we don't want to. But I want you to remember your body isn't betraying you. She's not your enemy. She's just waving a red flag saying, hey, babe, this isn't safe. This isn't truth. This isn't you. She's asking you to pause, to listen, to come back home. I want you to hear that again. She's letting you know that you're responding from survival mode. And she's saying to you, this isn't safe. This isn't truth. This isn't you. Because she knows. And she wants you to come back home. So, how does all of this show up in our bodies right now, in our lives? Because we know it does, right? Every single day. Fear isn't just about the panic attacks or the big dramatic moments. It's subtle, it's sneaky. It slides into that tiny cracks of your everyday life. It shows up when we overcommit, even when you're exhausted. You say yes when your body is screaming at you to say no and you just won't listen. You keep conversations surface level because it feels safer than sharing the real you. You silence yourself to avoid conflict. You hustle for praise or validation, but somehow never feel satisfied. And it's not because you're weak. I want you to hear this. You are not weak. You're not dramatic and you're not too sensitive. It's because fear taught you somewhere along the way, I have to perform. I have to prove myself. I have to be perfect. Otherwise, I am not enough. So, are you feeling this one right now? Are you feeling in your body where you're like, God, just even thinking about this is tightening parts of you or closing you off? So let's start making some small steps towards embodying what we're feeling and making the changes. So the good news, you don't have to rip your life apart overnight. Like I've said before, we come home to ourselves 2% at a time. So let's start simple. Just this week, I want you to try one of these. Breathe in deeply. Pause. When you feel yourself slipping into performance mode, drop your shoulders and take 3 breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Slow your breathing, slow your thoughts. That's 1. I want you to name your fear and say it out loud to yourself. This fear is trying to protect me. Witness it instead of becoming it. Be aware of what it's doing and why it's doing it. The thing is that we don't pay attention to the why as much as we should. And if we don't pay attention to the problem of what is happening, we cannot create a solution. Okay, so this fear is trying to protect me by, and then fill in the blanks. Another one I want you to try, I want you to feel your feet. And I know this probably sounds kind of strange, but when you feel disconnected or unworthy, place your feet firmly on the ground. Remind yourself that you are safe here. Now you're grounded. When we put our feet to the ground and we ground ourselves, it reworks our energy. It puts balance in our body. So when you're starting to feel this, just place your feet on the ground and remind yourself that you're safe. And then I want you to start speaking some small truths. So say one thing this week you've been holding back, even if your voice shakes. It can be something like, I know that I love to cook for my people, but sometimes we just need to order food. I know it can be as stupid, simple as what I just said, because it came off the top of my head, or it can be really deep for you. It can be something that just pops up for you. You know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can just be when I don't speak my truth, my stomach hurts. Just speak it, become aware of it. Because when we speak it, we acknowledge it. And choose rest. Please, my ladies, choose rest. Instead of doing one more thing, choose rest. Just let that be enough. It is okay to procrastinate pulling the laundry out. It is okay to not do the dishes one night. If you're feeling exhausted, if you're tired, take care of yourselves, please. So, my beautiful ladies, your worth is not in how perfectly you perform, even though as a past perfectionist, I thought it was. It is in who you already are. You are enough. Even when you're not performing, even when you're messy, even when you say no. And I promise you, the more you live in your body as your whole self, instead of in a place of fear or from fear, the less you'll feel like you're never enough for anyone, because you'll know you've always been enough for you. So, thanks for being here. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And come connect with me over on Instagram or on my YouTube channel. Let me know how fear has shown up for you and what small steps you're taking to come home to yourself. Until next time, keep getting real, keep keeping it raw, and always stay radiant as fuck.